Hi there. In this second in the series of short videos looking at 25 mark questions on AQA Paper 1, it's going to take a look at how you might develop those two PeCAn PiE paragraphs that we need for each essay. And what I'm doing is I'm building it, basing these on the essay plan that we developed in the first of this series of videos. That was the question there on the screen. To what extent do you think that developments in technology are making it easier for business to enter an international market? Justify your answer, and we spotted that the context hooks were all about technological change in the context of trying to enter international markets, and the key evaluation hook we had to consider is to what extent does it make it easier? Does it ease the process of entering international markets? Well, this was our outline plan that we developed, and of course you'll be able to go through that in more detail on the previous video. And this was the first point that we wanted to write, and it was a point in favour, an argument in favour of it being easier, how technological changes made it easier to enter international markets, and we were going to develop the point around technological disruption, and we planned out the point. So let's have a look at how we might actually write that. Don't forget, it's a two-paragraph strategy, as we know from our grade booster workshops. It's a two-paragraph strategy plus an AGM conclusion. So we just need to make sure we use the words of the question, support it with our contextualised analysis, always in context with some relevant analysis, and then make sure we leave enough space and enough time to add some evaluation as we go, our PiE. Well, here's the point explained, and don't forget the technique is signposting. So we always use the words of the question at the start of every paragraph point. One way that technological developments have made it easier for businesses to enter international markets is, so we signpost to the examiner that we're answering the question, and we simply state our point. And the reason is that disruptive innovation using technology has been able to quickly establish itself in international markets, often very quickly. So it's our point around the use of disruptive innovation to enter markets quickly. What we now need to do is support that point with some analysis, perhaps with a bit of theory, ideally some logic and some chain of reasoning, but in context. And don't forget, the context here is technological change entering markets. So if your essay is all about that, it's always in context, you will get to the top level of the mark scheme for context. If you've got some examples, that's great. You don't have to have them, but I think on an essay like this, if you've got a couple of examples, that's a great way of showing context as well. Let's have a look through it, see how we do it. This isn't meant to be a perfect answer, but certainly aims to be level 5 in terms of both analysis and context. We start off with a bit of theory. We mentioned that we wanted to use Porter's 5 forces. Well, as Porter explained, so you don't need to draw out the 5 forces model, just say as Porter explained, all markets have barriers to entry, such as economies of scale, brand loyalty, and control over distribution. And these are often hard to overcome for a potential new entrant from overseas that does not have the advantage of detailed market insights and existing market share. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough to get into a new market, particularly an overseas market. But then let's develop the analysis and explain the point. However, disruptive use of technology seems to have lowered the barriers to entry to some international markets, making it easier both to first enter the market and then to quickly build market share, often against entrenched domestic competition. So we've explained how technology enables businesses to perhaps more easily enter markets because the disruptive nature of the technology has lowered the barriers to entry. Support that with some examples. Good examples of this include Uber, which has exploited developments in mobile technology, so I'm using the words of the question again, exploited developments in mobile technology to successfully enter many countries by offering an existing service to new international customers. That's a hat tip to good old Ansoff and market development. Similarly, the disruptive technology model of Netflix has been used to rapidly enter many international markets despite the presence of domestic media competitors and strong ones. And then a hat tip to Bartlett and Ghoshal right at the end. Netflix hasn't needed to respond to local market needs, instead relying on a global strategy based on global hits like Breaking Bad and others. So there's our analysis. It's all in context. It definitely helps explain how disruptive technology enables businesses to enter markets even with strong competition. Don't forget, we always need a slice of pie, point including evaluation at the end of each paragraph. Evaluate throughout. So here it's just a question of just tempering that point slightly and adding some evaluation. It's not a conclusion because your conclusion comes with the aging method. Let's have a look. Of course, not every international market has the potential to be disrupted by the technology of new entrants from other countries. The ease of market entry using technology seems to have been significantly easier, so a bit of evaluation there, significantly easier in markets where mobile and other digital technology is a key source of advantage, as the examples of Uber and Netflix show. So it's not a conclusion, but what it's saying is that in certain markets where digital technology is the way that you compete, is the way that you enter a market, that seems to have made it easier. Not every market will, of course, rely on mobile or digital technology. So there we go. That's a great point. That's a PeCAn PiE point, and take it all together, that helps answer the question. This was our second point. It was a counter-argument against the argument that it's easy or easier to enter markets. And we were picking the point around how domestic competitors will respond. They may be strong, they may retaliate. It may not be as easy as a firm trying to enter the market thinks it's going to be. That was our plan if you refer back to the previous video. So let's have a look at how we might write this. And again, we'll just read through it just so you can see the PeCAn PiE point in all of its glory. Firstly, of course, we always use the words of the question. I've twisted it very slightly here just to make it a little bit more interesting to read. Of course, technological developments alone are no guarantee that businesses can more easily enter new international markets. So it's not saying technological developments have made it harder, it's just saying there's no guarantee it will be easier. And why? Well, the point we're going to develop here is that existing domestic competition may be strong and they can retaliate, which may have the effect of making market entry pretty hard. That's the point, isn't it? Existing market players can retaliate, particularly if they're strong. So we just need to add a bit more context and use a bit more theory, relevant business theory, to support that point. It doesn't need to be 5 pages, just a nicely argued piece of contextualized analysis will do the trick. Let's look through. Competitive advantage is a key concept supporting this line of analysis. That's a nice trick to use there, to signpost to the examiner that you're now developing the analysis that supports the point. In most markets, there are well-established firms who enjoy advantages over existing firms, over other existing firms, as well as potential new market entrants, thereby, a nice connective, creating a barrier to successful market entry. In international markets, these competitive advantages are likely to involve better insights into customer needs and wants. So that's so true, isn't it? In other international markets, they're often different in terms of the customer needs and wants, perhaps the culture, the way things are bought, or perhaps control over the main distribution channels, which of course is a big issue for any firm wanting to enter a new country. A domestic market leader may be of sufficient scale to enjoy much lower unit costs, or benefit from strong customer loyalty. What's the consequence of that? Well, all of that makes market entry harder for an outside business, even if it can take advantage of technological change. So, as firms like Xiaomi and Alibaba in China have demonstrated, the further part of this analysis is that domestic firms may not only just be market leaders, but they may also be technological innovators, which makes it harder, definitely not easy, for outside firms to use their technological disruption or technological advantage to enter the market and to succeed in the market. As Uber discovered with Didi Chuxing in China, if you know that case study, it's worth mentioning there, existing competition can be much stronger than expected. So it's a nicely argued piece of analysis supported by a bit more context. But you didn't have to have those examples in there, Xiaomi, Alibaba, Uber. If your paragraph is always in context, always talking about new businesses or businesses trying to enter international markets using technological developments, that is context. But I just think the examples there just help provide some seasoning and some credibility to the analysis. Don't forget, we always finish with a bit of evaluation. So this is tempering this point. So of course, if every business looking to enter international markets took fright at existing competition, few would try. If a business has a genuine technological advantage in potential new markets, international markets, it would be foolish not to attempt to exploit it. Although the risks involved appear to be higher in markets where domestic firms are technologically advanced. So it's a nice piece of evaluation to say, look, yeah, if you've got an advantage, if you can exploit technological developments, you should have a go if you think the market is attractive. Why not take a risk? But just accept that you need to understand the market you're trying to enter. If the existing firms are themselves technological innovators, then this risk is pretty high. So there we go. That's the second of our two PeCAn PiE paragraphs that we've developed there in relation to the essay plan that we've developed in the first video. In the third video, we'll take a look at writing the conclusion.